All right, with senior defensive back James Lanier, was named a semifinalist for the National Football Foundation Scholar Athlete Awards last week, and also a starting cornerback. James, just congratulations on the recognition as a semifinalist. Just kind of talk about what that means to you to gotten that news and be in the running here for a pretty substantial postgraduate scholarship.
It was actually came to a surprise to me because I was walking in the morning meetings, tired and whatnot, and Coach walks up to me and said, "Congratulations." I said, "For what? Going to meetings?" So kind of, and he said, "Oh, you don't know yet." And then he just left it at that, so I didn't really know what he was talking about. So basically, halfway through the day, I didn't even know that I got to the semifinals for this award, and I really appreciate it a lot. And one thing that my high school coach said before graduating high school is that eventually you're going to owe football for some reason, and that's one of those reasons to me. Some award like this to give me to possibly have the opportunity to go to grad school because of winning this award. So,
talk about certainly you're another big step ahead here. By the end of the month, but should you be fortunate enough to get this scholarship, what are your plans next year? And I know we'll get into some of your internships and stuff, and you can certainly touch on that as well. But bringing that forward, and what that would mean to you, and how you'd use that.
I definitely have to start putting a lot of more research into grad schools, because originally that wasn't my plan. Due to loans and whatnot, I wasn't planning on going to grad school immediately coming out of college. But life throws things at you, you just got to adapt to it. So I definitely have to start researching what I want to major in. Specifically, I was thinking about public administration before I decided not to go to grad school. So I can start looking back into that avenue now that I have this opportunity if I actually win the award.
You've done a number of internships, some public defender, public offices, and U.S. Marshals. Talk about those a little bit and what you're planning to gain from those, and your plans after football.
I've gained a lot from those internships. I've learned how law enforcement works externally and internally within the court. The organization, the way it's organized is a little different, but it's the same. Administratively, it's kind of the same. So I've learned that you can apply a lot of disciplines to the same thing over and over again. So that's the main thing I took out of that. And also that just knowing people and getting to know people also helps you with getting those connections and applying what you learned and taking what they've learned already and applying it to the next thing that you do. So doing all those internships have really helped me become ready for the professional world. So when I graduate, I'm not worried as much about how I'm going to start my career. I'm just more about getting to that point of starting my career, if that makes sense. Because I feel like all the experience I've gained so far has prepared me to expect the worst and the best going into the field of law enforcement.
You've done some work with in Brockton with the Boys and Girls Club. Talk about that a little bit, and how you kind of draw from that, your experience with those kids.
That probably I could say was, even though I went to DC and all, that was probably the best experience I could have had, because it was the first time I got to work with kids and have an objective view into an urban environment and see the problems that are actually going on in the community, respective of Brockton, and to see the good things that are being developed in the community. Just to see the kids, they have more of an impact on me than I could ever have on them. I never knew how influential I could be. I still visit there on Mondays, and it's probably the best part of my week because I get away from everything else and I get to help these kids deal with what they have to deal with. And another thing is, like, it's so big for us now, but when you go back and you remember yourself as a kid, you remember how big all those simple things were. So it reminds me that although all the stress and everything I'm dealing with now is seems so big, I gotta remember that it's not really as big when in the future when you look back. So that they showed me that. So I really appreciate Boys and Girls Club.
You mentioned, touched on it a little bit, your time in Washington D.C. last semester. Talk about that. Kind of like that internship, or not really studying abroad, but alternative study programs they have here at Stonehill?
So Washington D.C. it was kind of what I expected and kind of what I did not expect, because when I went to D.C. it kind of flipped everything. I had one class and I was basically working. So I was basically in the professional world. I was basically working. I had to go home. I had to learn how to cook. I was independent on my own, and I had to figure it out with strangers. Basically, there's a couple of other Stonehill people that went there, but basically with strangers from all across the country and the world, actually. So it was very different. I appreciate the experience because I got used to being on my own, being independent, having to pick up things that I never knew before, like figuring out my way around the metro in DC, and learning how to cook and learning how to operate in a professional work environment, things you can do and things you can't do, and what to expect after graduating. So Washington DC really helped me out with that, and I also made a lot of connections leaving DC. And the thing is, no matter where you go, there's always a lot of people looking out for you and wanting to help you once you get to know them. So I really appreciated my experience at DC.
You were an academic all district selection last year in an academic all conference. No, as everybody here, academics is important, but obviously you've taken that to the next level. Just talk about, I'm sure that probably goes back to home a little bit, and how that process and being able to balance academics and the athletic world here.
Well, when I think back, probably started freshman year of high school when I didn't really, academics wasn't really on my mind. It was football. So 8th grade going into freshman year, my dad said, he didn't say I can't do football if I don't do it in school. He said, I'm not going to support you doing football if you don't do well in school. And when I sit down and I think about it now, it makes sense why he said, because he didn't like saying I can't do things, because he didn't raise me that way. He always knew that I can do what I wanted to do, and that's why he said he wanted to support me if I didn't do well in academics. So I think that's when it flipped on for me, that I need to be the best I can be on the field and off the field, and eventually it became a habit for me to want to be the best, doing whatever I want, doing whatever I had to do. So academics, I'm as competitive in the classroom as I am on the field, and going into college, it was way harder. Freshman year was a little more rough than I expected, but the thing that you start to notice is that although you think football takes up a lot of your time, it shows you how to structure your day and how to get your academics done and when to get them done. It doesn't allow for much procrastination, and which is not very a good habit anyway. So it gets rid of all those bad habits and actually encourages the good habits when taking on your academics. So
talk about where you came from a little bit. You and Jared Gaines, who graduated last year, both from the same high school.
Yeah.
Talk about your high school, what football's like at your high school, and how that led you to Stonehill.
Football at high school was really tough. I came in probably $140 maybe. No, not $140. Probably 115 freshman year. Real skinny, no muscle, no nothing. Hoping to play football still. Played a little receiver my freshman year, and it was really different because when you look at the varsity guys, you had the varsity team, the junior varsity and the freshman team. They're huge. You don't know if you still, like, I'm still gonna play football at 115, trying to compete with these guys, and at the same time get my academics done. So it's weird, but high school football kind of definitely prepares you for college football, for that camaraderie, for the way the teams work, because freshman year, it's just you and the freshmen. But once you get to sophomore year, everybody, the sophomores to senior classes together, and everybody looks out for everybody at my high school. They took me in $115 coming out of freshman year, going into sophomore class. Jared Gaines and that whole class made sure I was taken care of. Nobody really bothered me throughout high school because they knew if they bothered me, they would be messing with them, sort of kind of thing. So I was like the little brother of the upper class, sort of. So the thing I got out of football in high school is your teammates will take care of you. Whatever you need, they'll always be there for you. And I still talk to them now because we're always there for each other. We had a brotherhood since high school, and it'll continue now, and that's the same with college football. So.
Like Jared's year had graduated last
Yes.
year. So, what led you to Stonehill? Would he his hat play a role in that, or what brought Stonehill on the map?
It's funny because coming out of football season, I didn't really think I'd be playing football anymore. 5'6", not too much weight on me. But I started getting a lot of D3 school calls, and I said, might as well. And then D2 schools started popping up. The first one was actually Bentley that contacted me, and then Coach Gardner actually found me through YouTube because Jared told him to look me up. So Jared was very Jared actually initiated me talking to Coach Gardner, and I kept thinking about it on my visit to Stonehill. It felt the same. It felt the same as that high school bond I had, and in the community, people holding the door open for you, don't even know you. People saying hi to you, don't even know you. That you just feel that bond with the community before you even are enrolled. So that definitely was what attracted me most to Stonehill College.
You talked about your size a bit, and I'm sure that plays a role in how trying to that chip on your shoulder a little bit. You're a starter this year, really started making an impact as a junior. Talk about how being able to overcome that, like you have, and just to be one of the defensive leaders on this team this year.
I don't think it's something I have to overcome. I kind of use it more to my advantage for the competitors that don't know me as much. They kind of downplay you at first, until that first whistle blows, and then it catches them off guard that I'm still coming for you, sort of. So you just have to play. You have to make sure your technique is way better than your competitor when you're not as tall or big as the other person, and you have to make sure you're not coming with any hesitation. So basically, great technique and no hesitation when going to make a play.
Talk about the season so far. You guys obviously coming off a tough loss last week, and but still there's a lot to play for, and that shouldn't be lost here. Heading into Southern Connecticut tomorrow. Just talk about as seniors, your goals, and how that hasn't changed, even though with a tough loss on Saturday.
You win some, you lose some, and the goal has to stay the same, and you really got to stay focused on what needs to be done, and we need to take it 1 week at a time. So just because we had a tough loss last week, we need to come into the week with the same attitude that we need to win every game, and every game is like the NE10 championship. Because basically, if we want to get to that point, we need to approach every game just like it is that moment, or success will not be achieved. So to be successful, basically in this league, you really need to stay focused, don't break it, and there needs to be consistency in play. So basically, as a team, we have to stay consistent if we really want to win and get to that moment.
All right. Well, thanks, James. Congratulations on the scholarship announcement so far, and hopefully we'll talk to you at the end of the month.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.